up, everybody? This is our first weekly reaction to the week's games. Obviously, week 1 was this weekend, so we're reacting to this. Every single week we'll have a reaction video coming out, so subscribe to see all of these or join the Discord in the description where we have the updates coming out for you. But we'll get right into this, reacting to every single NFL game that happened this week. Obviously, the big storylines or what we're going to be focused on, but we are going to go through every single game no matter what. Let's get into it. Thanks for watching this video. Alright, everybody, so the first game of the week on Thursday Night Football, the Chiefs versus the Texans. Deshaun Watson just signed his huge extension. Mahomes signed a huge extension that was like 3 times as big as Watson's extension. But we're not going to get into the money side of that. We're just going to talk about the game. The Chiefs outplayed the Texans. It wasn't even close. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was pounding the rock, and the Texans just couldn't stop him. 138 yards, a touchdown, and he got close to another one later in the game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire went off. He went off. The Texans just looked horribly, though. The O-line couldn't stop anybody. Deshaun Watson was running for his life. He just signed that long extension, so they got to figure out that O-line or else he's not even going to make it through that extension. But, yeah, this game was just a story of the Chiefs played way better than the Texans. Deshaun Watson needs to get some help, but let's get on to the next game. Next up, we have our game of the week, or at least I consider it the game of the week. We have Breeze and Brady, the GOAT versus Breeze. A lot of Saints fans have been saying that Breeze is better than Brady. I think now he is. Career-wise, I don't think it's close. Brady's a GOAT. But Drew Brees, I think, is better than Brady at this point in their careers. And Sean Payton is easily better than Bruce Arians. And usually the team with the better quarterback, even if it's slightly, and the better coach by a lot, is going to win the game. And they showed it today. Brady played terribly, a few bad throws, and then Bruce Arians after the game threw Brady under the bus, which was very surprising to me. I didn't know what to think of it. I think Tom Brady was upset with it, so I don't know. They got to figure that out too. Tom Brady might be regretting his decision a little bit right now, as those weapons didn't really show up yesterday. Chris Godwin's hurt. Mike Evans is banged up. Gronk didn't look as good as usual, but that's expected in his first game back. So we'll have to see what the Buccaneers can do over the next few weeks. Now we've got the Bills versus the Jets. I don't know how Adam Gase has a job, but he does. Le'Veon Bell is out on the IR now because he was playing through a hamstring injury and then hurt it and kept playing through it. The Jets got blown out of the water in this one. Sam Darnold is going to have to step it up and carry them to some wins, or else he's going to have to find a new team after his rookie contract is up. However, he might not be too upset by that. Josh Allen threw for over 300 yards and lit up the scoreboard last week, but that wide open end zone miss that he had over John Brown's head was horrendous. He needs to work on his timely accuracy because as he improves throughout the league, he's going to have to make those throws in clutch moments in the playoffs. And with what he showed on that play, it's just going to be scary if he does something like that in a Super Bowl like Jimmy G did, or just in any big game that happens throughout the season. Now we've got Cam Newton and the Patriots taking on Ryan Fitzmagic and the Miami Dolphins. Brian Flores is a good coach, but Ryan Fitzpatrick just wasn't ready against this Patriots secondary that hasn't lost a step, maybe has improved with Kyle Duggar, J.C. Jackson improving, and all the other secondary pieces getting better. The only 2 aging players that I think could have declined a little bit were Devin McCourty and Jason McCourty. But even them, they looked very good yesterday, so they're still looking to be quality members of the defense. On Miami's side, a lot of times they were cutting to Tua with his helmet on. I thought he might go in. I was like, please don't put him in. Against this New England defense, you really want to put your rookie player out there. I wouldn't. It was smart for them not to do that, but Ryan Fitzpatrick did not look good. Hopefully we can see Tua in a couple weeks. Next up, we've got the Ravens and the Browns. The Ravens blew them out predictably, but unpredictably, Nick Chubb had a bad game. And the coaching staff in Cleveland didn't seem to make it close. So with OBJ on the trading blog recently, thanks to everyone who came out to that video. That was one of our best videos in the channel recently. It's going to be interesting to see what they can get for OBJ if they're indeed trading him, which I think they are. It sounds like they are. But the Ravens might look better than they did last year, and they were the best offense in the league, averaging 33 points a game last season. So we'll have to see if they can keep it up, but they do look really good at football once again. Next up, we've got the Seahawks and the Falcons. The Falcons came out in this one thinking the Seahawks were going to run it just like they did last year, and Russell Wilson went off for 4 touchdowns and over 300 yards. I predicted Russell as my MVP this year. I think the Seahawks are one of the favorites in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl, and they're a very fun team to watch. Chris Carson had 2 receiving touchdowns, which I don't think is sustainable for fantasy, but if you had him in your lineup this week, good dub for you probably. And the Falcons defense couldn't keep up with them. Matt Ryan threw for 450 yards, but as we know, yards don't mean too much. It's all about getting your team touchdowns and getting points on every single drive, which passing yards don't always correlate to. The Falcons were getting a lot of hype before the season, and man, they're going to have to really improve to show that they are worth the hype in the next few weeks. The Seahawks, though, look legit, and Russell Wilson looks like the prime MVP candidate and a really good fantasy pick, as they seem to let him throw a lot. Only 4 incompletions, 31 of 35 for him, and we know how he can move with his legs, so he's still that elite fantasy quarterback. Next up, we've got the Bears versus the Lions. The Bears pulled out with a dub this week, but Mitch Trubisky went off in the fourth quarter, but they stalled for the first 3 quarters, so I don't know what's up with that. The Lions could have won this one, but DeAndre Swift dropped the ball. That was a terrible drop, but he's going to have to get over this because he still has 4 years left on his contract, and he's staying in Detroit for all of that. He's the future of their running back room. Adrian Peterson had a big day, though, so if he's somehow on the waiver wire in your league, you better go pick him up if you still can. The Bears did look good today, but the defense kind of got lit up in the beginning of the game, but they made clutch stops when they needed to, and the offense came up big in the end. Now over to the Raiders versus the Panthers. This game was crazy, dominated by the running backs. Both of them were in the 90s for rushing yards. Josh Jacobs had 3 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey had 2. They both did their thing. Josh Jacobs especially went off, but the Raiders were able to pull away with this one in a shootout of a game. With Teddy Bridgewater as your quarterback, I don't think this is a type of game you want to be in. You want to be in that ground and pound game behind Christian McCaffrey. There was a little bit of controversy in this game when they did not give the ball to Christian McCaffrey, so we'll have to see how that plans out and see how Matt Rule does in his first year. But the Raiders look to be on track to another good season. However, being in the same division as the Chiefs, it's always going to be an uphill battle for the next 12 years or something. So good luck to them. I think the Raiders are a good team. And now with the Colts versus Jaguars, this was the biggest upset of the week. The Colts were favored by, I think, 7.5 points, which is huge. The Colts were my survivor pick for week 1. I regret that. My survivor season ended quickly. Minshew mania. I'm a big fan of Minshew, but I did not think he was going to be able to pull out this dub. Phillip Rivers, on the other hand, I was never a big fan of him. And really, I don't know why they didn't just stick with Jacoby Brissett and use that $25 million elsewhere. Jacoby Brissett is a suitable quarterback. Phillip Rivers isn't providing that winning energy. I don't think they can go very far with Phillip Rivers as the guy. They're going to have to ride Jonathan Taylor and that defense if they want to get far in the playoffs this season in a tough division in the AFC South. Now moving on to the Cardinals versus the Niners. The main thing in this game was just Kyler Murray outplaying Jimmy G, and that defense did not look good enough to stop Kyler. Kyler played out of his mind, and Jimmy G missed a few clutch throws late. I predicted this to be an easy 49ers win, and I think the Niners are going to get back on track, but that Sherman injury does not help them, and they're going to have to right the ship quick because everyone in their division is looking really strong right now, and the Niners are in last place as the only team starting off 0-1, but they get saved with a Week 2 matchup against the Jets that I don't see any way they can lose, and if they do, all hell's going to break loose. Now the Bengals versus Chargers. This was a 3-point game and was obviously a missed field goal at the end. He had bad cramps, so it's hard to put this one on Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow had a great game, but that missed kick is just a freak injury that happens mid-kickoff. It's terrible luck for them. And that overtime would have been great to watch. I think all Bengals fans should be hyped, though, because Joe Burrow did look really good. Next up, down in Washington, the football team was racking up sacks against Carson Wentz and the Eagles. Crazy. Chase Young looks legit. Looks like it was a good decision at the #1 overall pick. Dwayne Haskins also looked good as they came back from a 17-0 deficit in the first half. So props to the football team. They look good this year. I don't think they're playoff contenders, but they could show a little something in the next few weeks to prove it, although they have a tough matchup against the Cardinals this week. But the Cardinals also don't have a great offensive line, so that defense is going to feast once again. Next up in Minnesota, the Packers went off on offense. The Vikings also did well, but they couldn't keep up with the Packers. Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers showed their great connection for over 200 yards, I believe, 2 touchdowns. It's crazy. I think Davante Adams is arguably the best receiver in the league. Maybe him or Michael Thomas. I know a lot of people like Julio, but I really like Davante Adams. I really like Michael Thomas too, but I think it's between him and Adams. I think Davante Adams is one of the best, probably the best fantasy receiver actually now that he got hurt. Or that Michael Thomas got hurt. So try to get him if you can, if that owner doesn't like him. But in other news, I think Aaron Rodgers is a prime MVP candidate now. I think the Vikings will bounce back this week. They are underdogs, but I think they'll get the dub. So I wouldn't be so afraid if I was a Vikings fan. Now we've got the Rams and Cowboys. Everyone probably watched this game. If you didn't, it was a close-fought game, but the Rams did pull away in the end. The Cowboys were trying to lead a game-winning drive, and there was a controversial offensive pass interference call that a lot of people disagree with me on. I personally think it was the right call. I think Gallup pushed off of Ramsey, and I think it was a great call by the official, but a lot of people do disagree, so you should check out that clip if you haven't seen it already. The Cowboys fans, I think you guys just need to own it, and you got to know that your team has to step up in these clutch moments. Last year against a beat-up Eagles team, you couldn't catch the win to go to the playoffs, and the Cowboys, especially Dak Prescott, just needs to step up in general, and hopefully Mike McCarthy is the right coach to do that. Next up, the Titans and the Broncos. The Broncos were at home for this game, and the Titans kicker, Steven Gostkowski, the former Patriots star kicker, struggled this game. He left 10 points up on the board, but ultimately hit the game winner. The Titans were able to hang on for the win, which I think is one thing Ryan Tannehill and Mike Vrabel and Derrick Henry do very well, is they hang on to those close game wins. And this could have been a much more spread out game if the kicker was hitting his kicks. But they ended up getting a close win, and that's all that matters in the end. I think Gostkowski will be able to turn it around. If you don't know, this has been his first game in a while after getting a big, long injury history at the end of his tenure with the Patriots. Next up, our last game of the week, our Monday Night Football 10 p.m. game, so a lot of people might not have seen this. Saquon really struggled behind the line, and the Giants just weren't able to get anything moving on the ground. Saquon only had 6 rushing yards. He was able to get you some fantasy points receiving if you have him in that. Big Ben went off for 3 touchdowns, about 230 yards. Juju Smith had 2 touchdowns, and Benny Snell had a really nice night, getting over the 100-yard mark. So if James Conner is ever out or questionable again, you're going to want to plug Benny Snell into your games, as he looked really well, just as James Conner looked in the absence of Le'Veon Bell a few years ago. Thanks everybody for coming out to this video. I really appreciate it, especially if you stayed to the end. I'm going to maybe post some clips of this just so if people want to watch individual videos. But if you watch the whole thing, thanks for doing that. Subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, like the video. See you next time. Dime Dropping NFL on YouTube.